Welcome to our podcast, Hiking in Heels, with life coach Teresa Coltrane and full-time mum and writer Jessica Heedy Gandolfi. Hiking through life can sometimes feel like we are literally hiking in our heels.
As women in today's modern world, the pressure to tick all the social boxes is at its peak. Being perfect, being strong, having it all together, the list goes on. Inspired by our own journeys and life struggles, we have come together, and we are on a mission to empower other women to overcome their fears and tap into their greatness.
With special guests and our own personal stories, our aim is to bring light and healing to inspire you to take your life to the next level. As Coco Chanel once said, keep your head, heels, and standards high.
We invite you to kick off your heels, relax, and enjoy the show.
Good morning and welcome back to our Hiking in Heels podcast. And today's episode, which we're actually going to be calling Mind the Gap.
Mind the gap.
Mind the gap, please. So a little nod to my London roots. But what we wanted to do was to create a little stopgap between guest episodes so that we could just regroup and just kind of touch base and talk about anything that might have come up for us in between guest episode shows. So welcome to our first Mind the Gap. Since we've launched the podcast over the last couple of weeks, it's been quite a roller coaster,
yes,
to say the least.
Yes.
Lots of hiking in those heels, up and down. And I know for me personally, I think some of the things that have been coming up have been trying to figure out exactly how we can, or how I can navigate and manage my normal life of being a mum and having the commitments that comes with that, as well as trying to focus on this and following my passion and my light with my writing and trying to make sure that I can do everything and fit it all in. And with that has come some of its own challenges. And when we were talking just yesterday, Teresa, you had found pretty much a very similar thing.
Yeah, so we're so excited about, doing this podcast, and it's been going really well and we're having so much fun. But it does take a lot of time and energy. And like Jessica said, it's like learning how to manage, following your passion, managing your daily life. Jessica has kiddos, I'm managing, trying to do a business. And so there's a lot that goes on, and not to mention that it's summer too, right? So there's all these other different activities that are going on. It just ends up being a busier time. And I kind of feel like over the past few weeks, I felt overwhelmed, in all areas of my life. And even as I was talking to other clients too, everyone kind of has this overwhelming feeling of oh my gosh, I want to be able to do everything, but I'm so exhausted, I'm so emotional, I'm tired, I'm cranky, and you're just not fully feeling yourself. So we were just kind of talking about this and knowing that a lot of women, we struggle with this, right?
And if we're feeling it,
yeah,
then everybody else, some other people must be feeling it too. And especially like you said with the summer, it throws your routine out completely.
Absolutely.
Because everything changes. People want to come visit, you want to take time off. For me, the children are out of school. For your clients, their schedules go out of sync probably with their children or their lives in general. And so it does throw you into a spin.
Yes.
I think. And so knowing how we should navigate that and what we need to do to allow ourselves to stay grounded, to stay focused, so that we don't end up with these, what did you call it earlier? Mini meltdowns,
right? We've all been there, right? When you're overwhelmed and I don't know, when I get overwhelmed, I get very emotional, and then I start barking, as my partner told me I barked at him the other day. And then I will have a meltdown, and that's usually my signal or my compass of saying, okay, whoa, you've done too much. You've been off more than you can chew. You need to pedal backwards, take a beat.
And I think that's a really good point. Does it take us getting to that mini meltdown point for us to realize that we need to stop and take a reassessment? Is that what it takes?
Right.
Or is there a way that we can almost realize it before that happens? Or is that what it takes? Does it take for us having that mini meltdown? Or is there a better way for us to manage our time and our schedules more effectively so that we don't get to that point?
Exactly. Yes.
And if there is, Can you share that with me? Do you know it?
Yeah. Can someone tell us, please?
Can someone tell us,
and can someone dial in and tell us? Yeah, I absolutely think it's possible. And, it's funny, as a life coach, this is the kind of stuff I talk about all day long with my clients. And, I forget to practice what I preach. And I think it's just by nature. I think being women, we can do so much. As we were talking in our last episode, The Divine Feminine, we have so much power. We can do a lot of things, and we want to do it all. And we want to please others. We want to have everything. But with that mindset at the same time, sometimes we do overcommit ourselves. And what's that fine line or that boundary that you can catch yourself out before you've overcommit, before you get to the meltdown? And so there's definitely lots of different ways, that you can do it, but it's really holding yourself accountable and knowing what those boundaries should be for yourself, and, start seeing the warning signs of when you're
Why do you think
space.
that we do that? Do you think it's because we just refuse to not be able to do it all, or because we're afraid to say no, or because we don't want to upset anybody by, feeling that if we don't do something that we're going to be missing out? I mean, what are the reasons why we feel that we absolutely have to bombard ourselves to the point of meltdown mode?
Right. I think it's a bit of all of that, right? I think someone can recognize themselves in any of those statements. I think, at the end of the day, though, I think for a lot of women, we do like to people please. We want to make sure everyone's happy. We tend to overgive. And so a lot of times we're overgiving to other people in other situations, and we're really like abandoning ourselves as we're doing this. So over time, that resentment starts to build up within inside of you, because you've given everything else out, but you haven't replenished yourself, or you haven't honored yourself in some sort of way. And it's really easy to do if you've always kind of been like that in your life. And as women, especially if you're a mom, or, if you're a woman doing lots of different things, like it's hard to, when to, especially if you're taking care of little ones. Like I have this conversation with all my girlfriends that have kids. It's like you're in charge of these small people. Like the first thing, you wake up, but like the first thing you have to do is take care of these small people, and it's like, if you're always giving and not checking in with yourself and not actually honoring what it is that you want to do, over time you can get depleted, you get tired, you get emotionally run down, and then that's when that's what leads you to the meltdown. And so it's a matter of becoming conscious of when that time happens, and really checking in with yourself and saying, if I do this, how will this make me feel? Is this going to be in alignment with what I want to do? And maybe ask yourself why you are doing these things. I was out to dinner with some friends, and we were talking about, someone had went to this, baby shower, and she's like, I didn't want to go. I didn't like any of the people, and I had to spend all this time and this money, and it was like so forced. Everything was so forced, and it was like, why do we do that to ourselves? Why do we feel like we have to show up to everything and be everything to everyone? And why do we have to say yes to everything, even if you don't want to go? It's like that silly thing. It's like, you're saying yes, but you really mean no,
So why can't we say no? And I think, it's funny, I literally last night, as we were talking about having this little episode, I came across this article, which I thought was really kind of interesting. Yes. And when I showed it to you this morning, it really couldn't have been more on point, perfect. Actually. So it was an article which we found. It was respected psychologist Dr. J. Early, PhD, and the article was titled "The People Pleaser Pattern, Transforming Compliance to Autonomy." And it basically just wants to talk about and highlights the reason people become people pleasers as adults is that when they were children, their parents only showed them love on what he terms a conditional basis.
Oh my gosh, I can resonate with that so much, and I'm sure our listeners can too. And it's almost like that funny relationship. Like I can recall from my childhood, that's kind of how I got attention, was like to be the people pleaser and be like, the kid that did the best or be perfect. And I kind of watched my mom be that person to everybody else as well.
Yeah.
So for me, that really hits home. What about you?
Well, I think so too. And I think, yeah, absolutely. If I keep everybody happy, if I make sure that I go to everything I'm asked to go to, if I do every chore or job or everything that somebody has put upon me, then they're going to like me for that. And it's going to make me sit higher in their pecking order, and it's going to make me more valuable to them. But the downside to that is you aren't necessarily more valuable, because you end up at the point where you're about to break, or you have your meltdown, or you get to the point where you just absolutely don't perform to your best, at your optimum. Or like your friend, she went to the baby shower, and perhaps she didn't necessarily have the best time and didn't necessarily connect with people the way that she would have done if she'd have gone through really wanting to versus going through feeling of duty to. And I think that yeah, I think sometimes as children, with my two, I know I see that with them too sometimes, to try and keep everybody happy, they'll do whatever they need to do versus any kind of
disharmony or rocking
absolutely,
the boat or
rocking the boat. And I had a meltdown with them at the weekend too. I'd just been away for 5 days on a volleyball tournament in Phoenix with my daughter Amelia, and that was a full-on 5 days of up first thing in the morning, bed super late at night, looking after all of these girls, having an amazing time, seeing them bond and do what they love to do, and do phenomenally well actually within the tournament. But I actually had no time whatsoever for me. I think I made it to the gym a couple of mornings, but there was no time for them with meditation. There was no time to sit and work on through my emails, to work on the writing, to work on the podcast notes. And by the time I got home on Sunday night, I absolutely was at breaking point, and I had a mini meltdown in the kitchen, and they just kind of looked at me and was like, but Mum, you're doing a really good job. And I didn't feel like I was at the time, because I was trying to keep everybody happy without allowing myself to recharge. And not making time, not making myself feel important enough to take 10 minutes, half an hour, whatever it is, to just refocus and regroup and allow myself to recharge my batteries, which I know we spoke about in one of the other episodes. You have to keep charging your iPhone, or else it's going to die on you and it's not going to work.
You run out of juice. And then you start barking at people and crying.
This article goes on to say that when, which is again, I think is quite interesting, when people-pleasing children grow up, that such children often carry their people-pleasing tendencies into their adult friendships, love relationships, and work relationships. And I think one of the main points that what it says here is one of the main problems that arise for many approval-seeking people-pleasers who expend so much energy in suppressing their own feelings is that they often end up becoming emotionally resentful, because they feel such a relentless, emotionally draining urge to please everyone they meet.
Yep.
That's kind of what we just said.
That's kind of what we just said. That's exactly it. It's like we've given everything else to everybody else, right? It's like that need to kind of please. And for me, I've always been a people pleaser. And as I became a coach and kind of have become more conscious and started learning how to break these types of patterns, like for me, that people pleasing is a huge thing. And that's usually how I can tell when I'm out of alignment, is that I will get to a space where I'm too overwhelmed. And what it really is that I've said yes to everything else except for myself.
Yeah.
And I've completely abandoned what was good for me and what was right. And for me, it comes from this fear-based place, right? It comes from the fear of like being abandoned or fear of not being accepted or liked. So a lot of times I will say yes to too many things because in general, I really do want to go. I want to be everywhere and do everything. Yes. So that's part of it. And then the other part, there is a little bit of fear of like, oh, if I say no, is this person not going to like me? You know, are they going to judge me? And there's that whole guilt factor, which I think women have that as well too. We have like this guilt factor of like, if we choose to do what we actually really want to do, you know, are we going to be judged for it? Like, what will people think of us?
Absolutely. And I think that guilt is the huge. I know I hear myself saying all the time, oh, I feel guilty if I don't go. Oh, I feel guilty if I don't call them back, even though I'm slammed back to back with appointments and scheduling. I hear myself say, whether I verbalize it or whether I just think it in my mind, that's a big thing. I feel guilty.
Yeah.
But why should we feel guilty?
Right.
Why should we feel guilty if we're not following our own true path and feeling true to ourselves? Maybe because of just the society and the way we were raised and feeling the need to be validated.
Yeah.
And then when you spoke about your mum earlier and you were saying, you know, you felt that she was always a people pleaser and you became that way yourself. I think with my mum just over the past couple of years, what I've really noticed and learned from her is that she has been a big advocate for standing up for herself and saying no. You know, she just says to me, you know, in the past couple of years, if you don't want to do it, don't do it. If it isn't going to help you and make you feel better, then don't do it. Oh, but I feel guilty. I feel bad. Why do you feel bad if it's not benefiting you? Why would you feel guilty if it's not something that really sits true to who you are or what you want to do or where you want to be in your life right now? And it's something that really in the past at least 6 to 12 months I've really taken stock of and taken on board, and it's actually really refreshing. And it's, for example, my friend messaged me yesterday. It was 4th of July. Everybody was out busy, party. The roads were slammed. The weather was gorgeous. It was a full-on holiday. And I had the day to myself. And I was so excited to not have to do anything. And my friend texted me and she said, hey, happy 4th. You're going to come for a hike. And I read the text. I was like, yeah, that would be great. And my first instinct was, no, I don't want to do that. I have planned to do nothing today. I have planned to recharge, regroup, refocus, and just relax and do what I want to do for me. But that's across my mind. Oh, I feel guilty if I don't go. But why?
Right.
Why? Because I'm taking time for me. So I sent her a message back. I was like, I would love to. Thank you so much. But you know what? I've already planned my day to do nothing.
Right.
I'm so drained and like needing this time out. Of course she understood. She got it. She's like, absolutely love that. Great. Let's touch base next week. And that's perfect. And then I didn't feel guilty and I didn't feel bad because it was coming from a place of love and communication and honesty and being in alignment with what I needed for me. Yesterday.
And you probably feel amazing today, right? You feel
so much
recharged
better.
and energized.
So much better.
Yeah. And so I think it's really like spreading the word to all of us ladies and knowing that it's okay to honor yourself. It's okay to ask, you know, for time and space for yourself. You know, there's that guilt piece is kind of like this made up idea that we have that's like tied to fear, right? It's actually not real.
Story.
It's a story and it's not real. And so just to kind of know that and just know, like, give yourself permission. It's okay to say, you know what, I have to sit this out. Or it's okay to say, you know what, actually I just want to be with my family today. I don't want to have to run around to 10 parties today and be exhausted by the time I get home. So it's okay to honor that time and space for yourself and also allow yourself to like create that for yourself in your life. And so I think, you know, if you are finding yourself in this space where you're in a constant reactive mode and you're barely, you know, every day you're barely struggling to keep your head above the water, that's your key or your cue, especially if you've had a meltdown or you start barking at your loved ones. Like, that's a sign to just stop and just take a beat and just look at what's happening. Where are you over saying yes to? What, you know, how much energy is going out to certain things that you may not have to actually do, and just hone in on yourself and say, okay, what will make me feel better? What will make me show up as the best version of myself? You know, and especially when it comes to events and things like that, like, your friends may not want you there. If you don't really actually want to be there, like, that doesn't feel good, you know? So like, you know, and I would feel the same way if a friend said, you know, I'm too tired or whatever, I'd be like, awesome. Like, I love that you're honoring yourself. You should do that. Like, I wouldn't want somebody to be there just because they feel like they have to, you know?
Exactly. And the guilt and just the story that you're telling yourself is just exactly that. It's not real. I went to an event. Actually, I made time to go to an event when I was in Phoenix, book signing. One of my incredible and dear friends, Laurie Harder, had a book launch, which I had not managed to get to either one of the two in LA. But when I was in Phoenix, the planets aligned and I was able to get to her event. And one of the things that she said, which really struck a chord with me, was stories, when shared, lose their power. And it's true. Yeah. Because the story you're telling yourself about being guilty, not good enough, having to do it all, you're telling yourself that in your brain, and it's driving you crackers sometimes, and it's driving to the point of distraction. But when you share that and talk about it and verbalize it, all of a sudden, it's just that. It's just a story, and you see the sense behind it, and the fact that you don't need to be punishing yourself that way.
Yeah. I always tell myself and my clients is, ask yourself, is the story true? Like, is the thought true?
Yes.
Is it true? And I actually kind of get that idea from Byron Katie. She's an awesome author and coach and has written a lot of great things. And she always tells you, you know, if you're having these negative thoughts or you're having this guilt or whatever, ask yourself, is it true? Because the truth is the only thing that's actually real, and it will set you free. Like, they're saying the truth will set you free. Yes. So, you know, ask yourself, is it true this person's going to be mad at me if I don't go to this? Or, like, you know, whatever story, like she was saying, like, share it. And you're right. Like, as soon as you share your story, it actually sounds different when you say it out loud. Completely. Or even if you write it down, you're like, that's ridiculous that I'm thinking this.
Absolutely.
You know, and to kind of know it's kind of comes from your conditioning from the past. Like, if you had a mom that was a people pleaser, chances are you took notes of that when you were 7 years old and it has stuck in your brain ever since. And so now it's kind of like the time to where you can start being conscious of these patterns and behaviors and kind of, you know, letting them go and knowing that they no longer serve you. They don't have to be yours anymore.
That's right. They don't. And, you know, with, you know, we talk about being children, but our children will become what we are. So be what we want them to be.
Love that.
Right? They watch, they learn, they take it all on board. Good, bad, ugly, everything. They're watching and they're sponges. They're sucking it all up.
Right. Yeah.
You know, let's empower our kids. Let's show them, you know, what it is to be strong, confident, incredible humans that can do everything, but with boundaries, with knowing that it's okay to say no to certain things, to certain people, to certain requests.
Right. Yeah, I love that, and it's so true, right? Because your kids they're our future, right? And they're sponges, and if we're conscious enough of these behaviors, this is where we can stop that generational, repeat, yes. Right? So we get to decide what we want to pass on to our kids and what we don't. And I think something that came to me yesterday, and I've been kind of doing this for a while now. You kind of hear, be the energy of what it is that you're trying to accomplish. So often lately, if I'm in this phase of just being overwhelmed and like feeling cranky and anxious and emotional or whatever, I try to stop myself and say, is this the energy I want to be? Like, is this who I want to represent? Is this actually me? Like, and it's no. The answer is no. And so what I realized too is I was in this phase of just feeling emotional and overdrained and too tired, and like I said, my partner said I barked at him, and I was like, oh my gosh. I'm like, I did. And I'm like, no one wants to be around that. That's not sexy. Like, that's not fun. Like, not cool. And I'm like, and then I was like, I don't want to be that girl. Right. I don't want to be the woman running around in this fit and just, being emotional and drained and tired and grouchy and having a meltdown like that. No, I don't want to be her.
Not attractive.
Not attractive, not sexy. I don't want to be her. So it's thinking, how do you want to be? Who do you want to be?
So what do you think would be our takeaways then from our little Mind the Gap with regard to trying to do it all, trying to keep everybody happy, trying to run at 150 miles an hour without having our meltdown at the end of it? What are our takeaways of how we deal with this?
Yeah, I think for me the most important one, which I say all the time, and I say this as I say it to you as I say it to myself, is to give yourself permission to honor yourself as what's going to be good for you. So give yourself permission to listen to what your inner voice is telling you. If you don't really want to do something, you don't have to do it. Most of the time you don't have to. There might be a scenario where you might, but oftentimes you might not have to. So give yourself permission to listen to yourself and to honor yourself so you stay in alignment.
Yeah. And do not feel guilty.
Yes.
Like, that's just a story. Get rid of that story. Don't feel guilty when you need to take time out for you.
Right.
10 minutes, half an hour, whatever it is. You deserve that.
Yep.
You owe it to yourself. For you to be able to run on all cylinders, you have to recharge.
100%. Yep. And do that truth check, right? Like, if that story keeps playing in your mind, like the guilt and whatever your inner critic is telling you, just truth check it. Like, right away. Be like, is that true? No. Most of the time it's not.
Yeah, absolutely. There's another one of those as well, isn't it? Is it true? Is it kind? Is it necessary?
Yeah. Oh, I love that.
Right? So what we're telling ourselves.
Yeah.
Is it true? Is it true? If it's not true, then let's move on. Is it kind? If it's not kind, get rid of it. Is it necessary? Are we going to benefit by telling ourselves this? Probably not. Then let's just...
Right.
Have a redo. Let's have a redo.
Right. There's so much power behind asking yourself those questions too. It's like, is that behavior or are those thoughts going to get you where you want to be? And if the answer is no, then just drop it. Drop it like a bad habit.
That's it. We hope you've enjoyed our first Mind the Gap. We hope you've taken something away from it. We'll put some little show notes up for you. We can put a link to this article, actually. I think that might be quite helpful for some people.
Let's do that. We'll put that up there for you guys. Also, if you haven't joined our Facebook group, Hiking in Heels Tribe Online, be sure you do that, because we want to carry over these conversations within the community so you guys have each other's resources. And again, we're creating a community to support and lift women up. So we want to carry on these conversations. So be sure to join us there. Also, if you haven't yet followed us on Instagram, we're at Hiking in Heels. H-E-A-L-S. Thank you for the reminder. Hiking in Heels, H-E-A-L-S. And we're so excited. We got to triple digits of our followers. So we're like, yay! It's so exciting. And then also, if you're loving these episodes, please take a moment, if you can, to leave us a review. It helps our podcast be more visible. And just those reviews, it just helps lift us up. And if you love this, share us with your family and friends. We would love it, love it, love it. Also, if you know of a phenomenal woman that would be an amazing guest, if you guys have any topics you want us to cover, and any charities that you want highlighted too.
Absolutely.
So
just let us know, and stay tuned for our next episode. We're working on some incredible guests.
Yes. Oh my God, I'm so excited.
Come aboard and share their light with you. So stay tuned and have an incredible weekend.
Stay tuned. Thank you.
Love and light.
Bye.